Yo, what's good, everyone? It's Atomic here, back out for another classic story time today. You've read the title, hopefully, if you can read and you're not illiterate in English and not going off the thumbnail and all that whoop-de-whoop. We're going to be talking about, I was only 13 when I got cuffed, and all honestly, when people commit crimes and get caught up, the first thing that they say is they didn't do anything, which that could be true, but me personally, if you were born on this planet, you're guilty of something, all right? Just how it is, man. I don't make the rules, I just make the code for my life. And which means in your mind, what's the law is whatever you say it is. Don't actually take that advice. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the story. So this story takes place during the summer months, and this particular day, I remember it was hot as hell outside, alright? The humidity out here was crazy. You know when you go outside and the street looks like molten lava that just dried up and is about to start flowing again? That type of 95-degree weather. I didn't really care though, I like that type of weather, especially back in the day. Biking in the wintertime fucking sucks, alright? For most of my life, I've used bikes to get around anywhere since I was a minor and had no money or prior Kia Boy skills, so my only option was walking or biking. So it was mind-boggling to me when I couldn't find my bike anywhere around my house that day. Maybe somebody had moved it, I thought, so I searched the whole house. Now you may be saying to yourself, no way you actually searched your whole house. And you'd be right, I looked around my yard for about 10 minutes and I started thinking about where I could find a bike in somebody else's house. Or store, it really didn't matter to me. But thankfully my neighbor Jay, we'll just call him Jay for this story, my neighbor Jay was outside, so I walked over to their house and I was like, yo, can I borrow your bike, dude? I see you haven't used it in like, I don't know, months at this point. Is it like broken or something? He's like, no, it's not broken at all. You could keep it for a little bit. I'm like, bet. I grab the bike and I start taking off with it back down to my house. Park the bike there for like 20 minutes and I'm starting to think about what I'm going to do that day. This is like when I was still doing YouTube, like gaming videos on this channel and shit. I'm not gonna lie, looking back on it, I definitely had a huge gaming addiction, okay? That's why I like don't even play the video games that I like post on this channel. Every story time or every video that I've posted that's not on my camera has literally been a video game clip that I don't even watch. I literally just download it from YouTube and like throw through that YT MP4 shit like on wave.video and just throw it into Premiere and just record over it type shit. I don't even watch the clip. Mostly because I was like incredibly addicted to video games for a long time, alright? Probably since I was a young ass kid, okay? I remember playing Grand Theft Auto 5 at like, not Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 4, the cooler one at this point, when I was only like 10, 11 years old. So, you already know how that story goes. You basically were raised off of video games. I remember playing all sorts of consoles. N64, PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, basically every PlayStation, alright? No Xbox in my life, ever. Only Xboxes I've ever played were at friends' houses, okay? And, listen, I had to quit all that shit because it's not good for your brain at all, alright? It's really not. It fucks your head up. And it also messes with your reward circuit a lot. And what I mean by that is when you're playing the video game, I'm sounding like a fucking like old head when I say the video game, but when you're playing video games, um, basically what's going on is you're making progress, but not in a real world setting. That's obvious, but it fucks with your head because once you get off, you're like, oh shit, I haven't made any progress like at all in my life at all. I've just been staring at a screen for like you looking at down at your non-existent watch because you haven't been to work and God knows how long because you've been playing the fucking video game for too fucking long. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the time is. You just know you've been staring at a fucking screen for too fucking long. All right. So you can't even find your phone either. Your mind just like it's fried out from like a 6 hour grind on Call of Duty. But regardless, I need to stop that shit, and I have. I haven't played video games in so long. I can't even tell you when was the last time I played video games. I don't really remember. It's been so long. So I think that's a good sign. But back to the story. So I got the bike. It's at my house. I take it outside because I've just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna go outside and fuck around today. We're not even gonna do anything. We're just gonna go bike and see where we end up. See if we meet some new people. Let's be social today, okay? So my first stop was this ice cream shop like around the block from me. So I rode the bike around the block, and I parked the bike in front of this lady's house, I guess. It wasn't even in front of her house. It wasn't in front of her house. It was just parked in the street in front of her house. Not on her lawn, nowhere near her house. Just a bike parked in front of her house. That's all you need to know. It wasn't even on her property. Just the bike was in front of her house. Just visualize that. I need you to visualize that in your mind. You got it? Okay, cool. So, park the bike, go over to the street. It's like this busy main road, all right? Hella cars. It's rush hour. It has to be somewhere around like 3 o'clock when this happened, all right? And so, there's mad people over at this ice cream shop, but I don't even trust this bike to make it. Now I'm not even trusting myself to make it. So, I'm just standing here waiting for my window to open. When it came, like fucking 15 minutes later, I just ran through that shit. And as I'm running across the street. I felt the wind of an SUV like hit my back. And it almost like gave me this adrenaline rush to run faster. Like I had been hit by a car at this point. So I was running, all right? And I made it to the ice cream shop, and I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing here until I saw this one kid that I recognized that was just sitting over at this table with his whole family present. And I don't even eat ice cream. But I still drank soda. So I went in line and I was going to get myself like a root beer or some shit. So I walk up in line with like the only $5 I had to my name at that point, and I was like, yo, let me get a can of root beer. And she was like, all right, you don't want a root beer flow? I was like, nah, I'll just get the can. And she was a little put off by that. I'm not going to lie. She was like, what the fuck? He really just asked me for the can, not the fuck. All right. And she kind of put it off a little bit. She didn't give me my can for like a good 20, 25 minutes. To be honest, I don't even think I got my drink. Because 15 minutes I'm standing here and I see a paddy wagon pull up across the street and it's to this lady's house. And I'm like, huh, why would the police be here? I'm going to investigate from afar. You know, I'm just looking over across the street. I'm waiting for my root beer. I'm trying to chat with this kid's family, I guess, because he's trying to get me involved in there. And at the same time, watch the cop. Like, I'm not present in the conversation. I'm just watching the cop. I don't know what it was. It might have been my amygdala just frying up and shit, but lady comes outside, cop gets out of his car, they start talking to each other, and she points over to across the street to the bike. And the cop, without hesitation, just grabs the bike and throws it in his trunk. And as he's about to throw it in his trunk, I yell across the street, yo, that's my bike. And he looks over across the street, he's like, what the fuck, who just said that? And he instinctively points my brown ass out, and he gets back in his car and he goes across to the ice cream shop. And now he has my bike in the trunk of his car at this point. So I walk over to his car and I'm like, all right, can I get my bike back out of the car? And he's like, first of all, what's your name? Blah, 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 blah. So I go through all the, cop small talk with him and shit. And so he asked me, where did I get the bike from? And I was low-key being honest when I told him that a friend gave me this bike. And he looked at me after I said that and said, well, I get a lot of calls about stolen bikes around here, and I just want to make sure everything's okay. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, of course. But in my mind, I'm like, give me my fucking bike back. Okay, you know what I'm saying? If you were not a public servant, I'd smack the shit out of you with my little noodle arms. But I'm trying to plead in the nicest way to get my bike back out of this guy's trunk, right? And he's just telling me, all these excuses about how they're looking for bikes and they're looking for people stealing bikes. And eventually he just tells me to get in the back seat of the car. Like he opens the door and is like, yo, get in. And I'm like, where are we going? Why do you want me to get in there? And he's like, we're going to the station. Put your hands out. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he says, put your hands out. And so I put my hands out in front of me, slaps the cuffs on, just one on my left hand, and then puts me in the car and closes the door. Just one cuff. Didn't even put the other one on my wrist, just the one on my left hand. I'm sitting in this car dumbfounded. I'm like, did I just get arrested? Like, my first thought before, like, while this was happening was like, can I run? Like, if I run from this guy, will I make it? I like probably would have, but at the same time, I would have never got the bike back. But I'm not gonna run because I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't think I did anything wrong, and I'm not about to add some random fucking escape charge or some shit fleeing from the police. So I just hopped in the back seat. Now I had way more questions like why this guy didn't read me any rights and why this dude just threw a handcuff on me or whatever. And I look over to my left, and there's another car that's pulling into the ice cream shop from like the left side of the street, and it's another paddy wagon. I'm like, what the fuck? They just thought they caught the bike bandit over here. And so they're talking to each other for a little bit, and he eventually gets in the car and puts the other cuff on my wrist for some fucking reason. And then we start going over to the PD station, and he's telling me about being detained and all that whoop de whooped. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. He's got me in cuffs and calling me detained, and we're going to the PD. I guess he can't pin a charge on me, so I have to be detained for suspicious activity, I guess. I'm not really sure what their motives here were, but this story does take an interesting turn, and it is very funny. So we walk in, there's like this lady that's like at the front desk. She's all cool and stuff. She asked me my name. She's gonna be important later in the story, because she's gonna ask me a bunch of questions. But they take me downstairs, and it's like this conference room kinda, and I get handcuffed to this like standalone chair. And I'm only here for about 20 minutes before they start asking me questions. Like, where did you get the bike and all this bullshit. I already told them what, the whole thing shebang that went down. And so they couldn't really, get me on anything, so they just had to let me go. And it would have been that simple if I still had a bike in the back of this guy's patrol car. So he puts me in the back seat again. We go back to my neighborhood, and he wants me to point out the house of where I got the bike from. And I don't want to bring the cops to my neighbor's house for obvious reasons. It's a little bit intruding. So I just point out my house. And he's like, wait, didn't you say you borrowed the bike from someone? And I was like, yeah, but that's my house right there. You know what I'm saying? The bike was given to me at my house. Basically just sitting in the street as I'm pointing out the house, because I know what he wants to do. He wants me to point out the house so we can walk up to it with the bike and say, hey, I found the guy and I found your bike. Whoop-de-whoop, I'm a helpful servant to the community and all that shit, right? All reality, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, they detained me for no reason. And so I made up this excuse where I was like, I don't even know what house it is, you know what I'm saying? I just want to go home and give me my bike because I'm borrowing it right now. And Jay comes outside of the house while this is all going down, and I see it like the corner of my eye a little bit. So I point over and I'm like, yeah, that's who gave me the bike right there. So he pulls over in front of the house, gets out, pulls the bike out, and is like, can I speak with your parents real quick? And I guess she runs in the house and grabs her dad or whatever, and he comes outside, and then he's just like, man, what the fuck is going on here? He's confused. He's as much confused as I am about the whole situation. And the cop's like, yeah, I found your bike. Exactly what I said he was going to do. Yeah, I found your bike, and I just wanted to make sure that this kid wasn't taking it from you. And whoop-de-whoop-whoop. So the dad is just like, yup, he didn't take it, blah, 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 blah. And the cop's kind of just trying to make small talk with him a little bit, just trying to get the ounce of guilt, any kind, out of us, and there was nothing. So he just got back in his car and left. And as I'm talking with the neighbors, I see him like go up and down the street like 2 more times before eventually taking off. At first, when I had to explain it to my neighbors, I was a little bit like confused on how to explain it, just because the whole situation was a little bit bizarre. But after all that, I just left the bike at their house and I walked back over to my house. Walked in the door, my dad was just laying down on the couch, like about to take a nap or some shit. And he asked me where I was, and I explained the whole situation to him, and he was like, what the fuck? Like, he almost didn't believe me a little bit. But he just told me to be cordial and don't talk, and I was okay to take that advice. Moral of the story is, if you're ever in a situation like this, don't be stupid. Stay elevated.